Sorry, you guys. I don't know what just happened. Somehow I was able to create two lives at the exact same time, but I don't like this one wasn't popping up. And then that one wouldn't let me in. And I'm like, come on now, everything was set down to the T. We are mastering time management right now. Don't play me YouTube on laptop. You need to be doing the things that you need to be doing. With that being said, you do too. But for tonight, we chilling. We're chilling, we're chatting, and we're burning some wood. So, what's good? What's good? You guys hop in, pop in, tell me what's going on with your day. I know y'all have seen these before. I am so sorry I did not do the welcome because I let YouTube take me out of my square. We're gonna put me back and open up the door like I want to. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Whenever you decide to pick up this video, or if you're joining us live. Well, I can never do that intro without a sound. Thank you guys for being here and welcome. It's your girl Danny T. I want to tell you guys a little bit more about myself, but I would hope that a couple of people pop in, we can riff back and forth. If not, I'm gonna just be rambling like always, and we always gonna have some dope art. Now, tonight, don't mind the ice cream because I can never eat a real meal, so why not just have a girl dinner, pre-dinner of ice cream. I chased down the ice cream truck today, you guys. I haven't done that in about 4 or 5 years. But it was worth it because I got a chocolate and vanilla swirl. Even though I think that the truck may have broke down right after we got our ice cream, which, you know, if he come back around here, we gonna, I don't know, help him out. We got the tools at the minimum. Anyway, thank you for being here. As we grow together, we have laughs, we have rain, but we have each other. All right. I'm going to have to clip that because that was wholesome. So these are our old ones, the ones that we had from before, right? So we had our Rafiki. And these, all right, I'll be real. This is the first wood burning that I've ever done. I don't think we did any wood burning in college. So, you know, if that's not in mind, scratch that from the record. But this is the first one that I've done. So you can see like the wrinkly lines, the edginess, like it's not the cleanest. It could be, but it ain't the cleanest. But I'm not mad at it because it came out the way that it did, and it was the first one. Then we also have this one, I think was second, then third, then fourth. But these are the old ones. What I want to do tonight, I had 3 blanks. So I want to sketch something real quick. And then I also want to, oh yeah, this one was a test, but we're going to flip it over and use it for realsies. And I think this one was a test too, because I was using the lighter on it to see, you know, you got options. When you're creating, you do have options. So this is straight up from one of the many, like, tips that we have to use in here. So you see that one gets used all the time. This one almost broke. That's how I broke the last one, because this same piece got stuck in the last one and it was still hot, and and I tried to unscrew it with like a microfiber towel. Oh, sorry, with a microfiber towel. Let me set the camera down so it's not shaking on you guys. And that's why we have a new one. Make sure that when you are wood burning, this is for the people that will go out and do wood burning. I know not everybody that watches my content is an artist or a creative or think that, you know, they can do these kinds of things. You can buy one of these at the dollar store, this exact one, because that's where I got it from, for 12 bucks, okay? And as long as you plug it up, it will get hot. Treat it like an iron. Leave it on the stand while you're not using it. If it ain't in hand, it's where? The stand. Okay, great. We're all on the same page. With that being said, you get a pack of these, it's like about 6 or 12 of them in a pack. Easy peasy. That's for my business people too. Because look, I'm on both sides. So I do a lot of coaching in business, life, and art. I can't get away from it. I never wanted to be a coach, but apparently I might be decent at it. So for this particular one, I didn't use any of this stuff. You know what I mean? I used a regular big lighter. They don't pay me to say their name, but I did it because I want you to know. So it's easy. What you would do, you would hold it under. I'm not going to strike it right now, but you would hold it under and then you would light it that way. I need to pull up chat. That's what I didn't do. So welcome in, you all. I'm going to pull up chat, play some music for y'all real quick. I really want to play stories low key because we didn't get a copyright, and we might do that. And I will absolutely tag. I will tag any of the people that we do stories from that you're going to be listening to. I probably want to put in Llama's Arts Be Crazy, even though I love the narration for it. If you haven't watched a Llama's Arts animation, definitely suggest go to Spooky Scary Sunday. Any one of them, I think, has at least one. Now, there's like 5 that don't, but let me go ahead, get y'all situated. For the first like hour or so, I think I'll play some music just so y'all can just vibe out and watch. Ooh. And make sure you, this is not me selling the mug. Make sure you get your snacks. I gotta plug this up anyway. Now, okay. This is gonna suck because I am left-handed, but I plugged it into the power strip that's on the right. Ew. I want to do a dragon since we're always listening to mythical music. But you guys are caught up, so it shouldn't be slow mode. It shouldn't be anything crazy. And I just let y'all know in the chat. Ooh, smell. Don't melt my ice cream now. I can smell it, and it smelled just like a flat iron. I was like, oh. Let me relax over here, laptop. You've given me enough grief tonight. Enough. I low-key might have to take this out of the case so I don't break it. Oh, son of a... All right, guys. Here's something that I did not do that you absolutely need to do beforehand. I got so caught up on ice cream that I didn't take one of these out. And you know, I didn't do the things. Because this one's already burnt, I low-key want to just draw with it, with the wood burner, rather than drawing out an image. This is my favorite one. Oof. I don't know what none of these are called, so if you do, you know, drop it in the chat or in the comments later on and educate me. I am not above being educated. I am not the smartest person in the room, and I keep it that way. Unless I'm, you know, unless I'm betting, and I don't bet. But if I was gonna bet, I'd definitely be the smartest person in the room. So I could guarantee the win. There we go. Just a little welcome for y'all. I just wanted to throw that in there for y'all right quick. Okay. All right, so when you're picking these, one, X-Acto knife heads don't belong in here. There we go. Oh, did that come off here? No, that might be off another X-Acto knife. Do we have a bowl? I don't know. Never mind me. Anyway, the one thing you absolutely want to do is make sure you put this in before it starts getting hot, because halfway through you screwing this in, like this is already hot. If I started screwing this in, and I didn't unplug it yet, I need to so it can cool down. But halfway through, it's absolutely going to get hot on your fingers and you could potentially burn yourself. I done burned myself with a lot of different things. Thank God not when I was blowing class. But with this, too many times. I don't even want that piece. I don't want this piece neither. I do want this piece. We're going to make something cool. Alright, hold on a sec. We gotta go this route. Just take it, just take it, just take it, just take it. Just take it. See, it's already, this thing gets so hot. This is already hot. I gotta use my shirt just to get it back in there. All the way. And then I burned my hoodie the last time, and I just burned my shirt too. Like, that little burn right there. That's what I mean. Like, be careful with these things. They are so much fun, but you can burn yourself that quick. And that was for me putting the little head in there before it was ready to go. That's what I'm gonna use. I think I'm gonna do for this first one, since I'm burning it and drawing it at the same time. Not like sketching it, but because I am, there it is. They don't belong in there, but it's a safe place to keep it. I love this little tube. I need like 20 more for every other thing that I have around here. Lead, all the others. I just wanted to bite of ice cream while this heats back up. Mm-hmm. Also, you guys that are watching, if you were here last week, if you weren't here last week, I'll explain. But if you were here last week, we did a vision board, which you all saw. For those of you that did not see, we have this vision board for the channel. And every time that I add something to it, I will do a short for you guys. So I'm gonna cheesily call it our InVision board because, you know, InVision-Graphics. So, but all of these things pertain to the channel in one way or another. Think of something that we have done, something that we are doing, or something that relates to what we are as a community, and drop it in chat, and I'll pick one of the things, and towards about 8:30, because that's when I try and wind down with the heat, at least, pick something and throw it in chat, and I will pick one or two of the things to add to this. So this canvas here is that canvas. We got to finish that. This is paint going into, what did I say? Paint going into an ink flow. That is you all. We have the 102 for the 102 subscribers we hit last week. We have Tea Time, which is something that we feature on here. Tea facts, poetry, art, wellness. Our little goodie bag items. The fact that I mail you guys really dope stuff. And we do stories that come from Tea Time, or we just create stories and I use my voice. And an X-Acto knife. So, we're doing this as a comic strip. If you find this exciting, interesting, dope, drop something in the chat and I will go ahead, or in the comments, because if nobody drops anything in the chat, then this is open to the visionary subscribers that pop through and see this post. Yep, there it is. I feel like Tanjiro. am always sniffing the air like, there's evil around. Ah, there's this, there's that. So, alright. Let's see. A mystical, not the rapper. A mystical land. What would that look like? Let's see. And I have my laptop next to me to see chat. If I end up missing something, just, you know, give me a second. I'll double check it, or I'll check it out. All this sharing and stuff, and it, get out of here. Get out. Notifications. YouTube got me hotter than a pot of neck bones right now. Messing with my flow. Alright, y'all can see. Okay. So, I don't even know. Do I have a tester for this? Nope. We're just gonna test it right here. Ooh. Ooh. Yep. Yep, y'all know what I'm about. I hope this comes out right. Let me stop before I mess up. This one might end up being my favorite weird shape and all. I just gotta learn it a little bit more. I feel like I'm giving it good pressure. I don't want to break that. That's why I'm... Okay. So that was solid pressure. But while I'm doing this, also, you guys, how are you doing? How's your day been? Did you get ice cream? All right, let me stop. Did you want ice cream? I'm thinking about doing a ice cream pizza social for some volunteers this summer. So if you are in the Baltimore area and want to link up and know more, just reach out to me. Your best bet is to reach out to me either on our Discord or on Instagram. Unless you already have my phone number, then just call your girl up. If you got my phone number, we kicking it. And we getting ice cream and pizza. Sounds like a plan. I felt the heat here. Like that. Scared me a little bit. Oh, I like. Ooh, I likey. Okay. Shouldn't have got so excited over art, but I'd be doing it, damn it. This is definitely going to be one of my favorite. The way that was gonna come out after saying what I said wasn't gonna be well. So let me just say, it's one of my favorite points on the for the wood burner. And now I normally use the top of the cylinder. It is a metal top, so that way I'm not, you know, putting any extra heat. Like this, I can feel the heat that's coming through. It's not too bad. But if you are working with these smaller pieces of wood, you're going to want to put it on something that is metal, that won't, you know, that's not gonna burn. You know what I'm saying? Your house is safe. So just be mindful. Now, because it's not a lot of heat coming through, I'm not too worried. In a second, I'll pull it down. But and by pull it down, I gotta take this off. Y'all, you poke. I gotta take this off of here and get the metal top. So now, if this live is a slow-paced burn for you, get it. There's always gonna be puns, always. If this live is a slow-paced burn for you, currently there is a 2 hour and 30 minute playthrough of some co-op playthrough for Borderlands 3 happening on Space House Production at this very time. And I only shout them out because it's me! It's me too! Let me stop. It's me and Soul Proper or Big MF Donut. So all the videos you guys watch here that has Soul Proper listed as the music in that gameplay, I think they're either, they might be on the bottom for that one because I think I was first player that go bout. It's a good time though. This is cool. Like, ooh, we are absolutely gonna switch to stories because I know us. I wasn't trying to say it twice, but a slow burn like this is going to let me see if I can do the thing. Oh, I can do the thing with it. You know, this is really freaking dope. Why did I never try this point? We tried like 5 other points the last time we did wood burning, and this one wasn't it. It wasn't one of the ones. I don't know why. It should have been. I feel bad for the ice cream guy. I low-key, I don't feel bad for him, but I do, you know, if he come around this way, I'm gonna buy I'll buy a popsicle, because I think when he was getting the vanilla out, there was something going on with the truck. I've never worked on an ice cream truck, so there was not too much information I could give him. But when when I said, oh, I just want vanilla, he was saying that the truck, or not the truck, but the vanilla wasn't coming out the way that it needed to. So I would have to get, sounds kind of crazy, I would have to get either a mix of vanilla and chocolate because the way the machine's broken up, like the way it kind of cuts, or I would have to do all chocolate. And me not thinking that, oh, well, maybe it's the vanilla being an issue and it's messing with the truck. I'm like, dang, I could have just got a SpongeBob pop or something else. I could have got, you know, I was looking at Sonic and SpongeBob. I'm trying not to burn my hand, so let's do this. And what I do is rotate. I will rotate the wood, but be careful because it slides just like a knife on butter sometimes. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, baby, yeah. Slow and steady. Watch your fingers. At this point, I'm not pushing the wood burner forward. I'm just, well, now I am. I wasn't until I said it. I was just rotating so that way only one thing is moving, because just like how my hand slipped like that, I move this one up and make sure we don't have any troubles. Ooh, you know what? This, your girl got an idea. I'm hype. I'm so hype. If only I had a second camera. I mean, I do, but when I get my laptop, that's my goal. That's the goal I want to add, is getting a laptop that can handle OBS. Oh yeah, we gonna take it out. Boop. Yeah, I'm gonna switch to stories a little bit earlier for you guys. Ooh. It just gets darker and blacker and darker and black. I love it. It doesn't help that between watching friggin' Abba and preaches Uncle Ruckus voice Um, hold on, I'm gonna switch this to stories for you guys. And y'all know who I'm going to because the way this man just is one of my favorites. We're gonna listen to some Mr. Ballin stories in the background. But Uncle Ruckus came out for two reasons: Preach, and then also DreamCon last year when Uncle Ruckus and oh, I forgot the other character that somebody else was playing. They met in the dealer's room, and that was a funny just moment. Let me see. Worse than a skinwalker? I didn't hear that one yet. But they're newer. Let me go with some older ones just because I want his channel to get some traction off those. Let's go a month ago. You can't feed the trolls, but you can hunt them. I like that. What is that? No, that's not even. I don't know. Here we go. Epic manhunt ends with one man's night of terror. I have Twitch energy on YouTube. That's hilarious. I love it though.
Today, we're going to cover a story that sounds like a nightmare. It's about this man who's home alone when suddenly his power goes out. And as he goes to...
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that, Mr. Ballin.
Get it back on again. He realizes he's not.
Ah, it might not be able to do it. I don't know. It's tripping. We'll get it together and we'll come back to that. This reminds me of a very particular character. Some of you know him as the One Tail. Some of you know him as... Is it Ikaku? I forgot his last... I forgot. It's one of those. One Tail Beast. One Tail Beast. It gives me very much so Shukaku. I was incorrect. Why would I think it was Ikaku? Who is... No, that's Bleach. That is absolutely Bleach. I don't know what I was thinking. All right, let me. Yeah, that one. That's the one. That's the one. Let me see that area.
Not alone. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place.
Stories for you guys, so I can focus on not burning myself.
So if that's of interest to you, please show up at the Like Button's house with one of those big, oversized checks and tell them they've won a multi-million-dollar sweepstakes. And then right as they and their family begin to celebrate, say, just kidding, April Fools, and then leave. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications.
I didn't get got this
so
year,
you
and
don't
I'm
miss
glad about
any of
that.
our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story. On February 27th, 2025, a man in his 30s named John grabbed a drink out of his fridge in his kitchen and then walked into his living room. He had just finished work, and his wife and kids were out visiting his in-laws, and so tonight he was excited to just sit on the couch and watch TV. As he sat down, he called out to his dog. There was a huge thunderstorm outside, and he knew his dog was deathly afraid of thunder, and so he expected her to come running as soon as she heard her name. But after he called her, he heard nothing. But this didn't worry him, because he figured, his dog must have found a good hiding spot and had just fallen asleep there. So John turned his attention to the TV and began looking for a horror movie to watch. But as he did, he started thinking about his wife and his kids driving home that night. He was worried about them, because of the weather. So instead of clicking on the horror movie, he turned to the local news to check on the weather. However, as soon as the local news came on, it was not the weather they were talking about, despite this being a major storm. I mean, this should have kind of dominated the news, but it wasn't. Instead, there was a much bigger story on the news right now, and that was there was this huge riot happening at a state prison that was only 10 miles away from where John lived, and apparently the most dangerous convict at this prison had escaped. The newscasters began to describe this convict.
American Dad episode.
The nickname the other prisoners had given him. They called him the Monster of Cell Block C. Now, this nickname had to do, in part, with the fact that he was just a horrible criminal. Like, people were scared of him. And then also, the nickname came from his just totally bizarre and threatening behavior. He would routinely sit in the corner of his cell and eat insects off the ground. And then also, he kept jumping on prison guards every chance he got, which got him thrown in solitary confinement, where he just continued to eat the insects there and act totally unhinged. But perhaps the biggest reason he was dubbed the Monster of Cell Block C is because of his appearance. He had these crazy bulging eyes and this really thick neck that made him look totally deformed. The anchors were telling locals to stay vigilant because the police had no idea where the Monster of Cell Block C was. I mean, maybe he was still at the prison, but it did seem entirely possible that he really had escaped. And then it seemed like the anchors were about to put a picture up of the actual inmate himself, when suddenly John heard this huge boom of thunder outside.
Heck no.
And then the power in his house just completely cut out, so the TV shut off.
Not
He
me
didn't get
not
to see what the
knowing.
inmate looked like.
Oh
John
my God.
instinctively reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone to use the flashlight feature, but his phone was dead. It had died like a couple minutes earlier, and he had told himself, I'm going to plug this phone in, but he just hadn't done it yet. And now the power's out. So he has no light source. And on top of that, John couldn't help but feel sort of rattled. I mean, he had just...
I'm sorry to do this. Always keep your phone. Out of all your technology, whichever one can call the police, keep that charged. Because you just never know. And even when you don't want to, that might be your best one. They always gonna pick up, and they can find your location faster than a teen on TikTok. So, keep that in mind. Always keep your phone charged. If you're going to be out of the house more than 30 minutes, always keep it fully charged.
Just heard on the
At least
news
50%.
that the Monster of Cell Block C has escaped 10 miles away, and now the power's out at his house in the middle of a storm, and he's all alone. But at the same time, John told himself, everything's fine. It's just a coincidence here that the power's gone out right at this moment. I'm fine. The state prison, it's 10 miles away, and why would this convict have any interest coming to my house? So I'm fine. And so John
Because
stood up
it's a
and began
house.
heading towards his kitchen, where he knew he kept a flashlight. But as he got close to the kitchen, he heard a strange sound. It was an electronic ding, like a phone notification sound. But at the same time, John really couldn't quite place it. And he also knew it couldn't be his phone because his phone was dead. However, he thought, maybe it's my kids' iPads. After all, the sound he was hearing, the more he listened, he could tell it was coming from upstairs, and that's where his kids' iPads were. However, the sound still seemed really weird to John, because it started suddenly, basically right after the power went out. He hadn't heard it before.
Not him waiting to creep in when the lights were out. He said, now's my
sounds
chance.
on his kids' iPads, you would think there would only be maybe 1 or 2 notifications. You wouldn't have, a string of notification sounds. But as John listened, he heard like this incessant amount of dinging coming from the upstairs. And it wasn't constant. It was sort of sporadic, like random dings kind of all over the place.
It was
But
like,
then
yo,
John
you got my
remembered that his kids'
car ready?
iPads
I'm
had a
out.
messaging app on it so they could talk to their parents. And John remembered that, his phone is dead. His wife could be out there driving in the storm. And so maybe she was trying to get in touch with him, couldn't because his phone was dead. And so now she was trying to message him using their kids' iPads. And so suddenly his heart rate began to pick up. He ran into the kitchen, he grabbed the flashlight, turned it on, and he ran to the base of the stairs that led up to the second floor. And as he began ascending the stairs, he's hearing that dinging sound over and over and over again. He knows it's from somewhere upstairs, and he can't help but feel totally anxious about it. Like he can't place it. It kind of sounds like an iPad, but at the same time, it doesn't. He doesn't really know what it is. And so up the stairs he goes, he's scanning all around. There's no movement in the house. He still hasn't seen his dog. He gets to the top of the stairs, and in their house, there was this hallway that ran right and left from the top of the stairs. John looked to the right and shined his flashlight down there, and it was just all darkness and totally silent. The dinging was coming from the left side of the hallway. John swung the flashlight around, and he shined it, and as soon as he looked down the hallway to the left side, his heart really began to race. Because remember, the power is off inside of his house, so all the lights and everything should be off. But as he was looking down the hallway, he saw there was bright light coming out from underneath his closed bedroom door. And also, that dinging sound was coming from in his bedroom. And his kids' iPads were not in there. At this point, John was terrified. But he knew he had to go in there. He had to see what was going on inside of his house. And so, very nervously, he began walking down the hallway towards the closed door.
That would
And
be
as
me
he's
too.
walking, the dinging sound is getting louder and louder. And with each ding from inside of his room, that light that was on inside of there would sort of pulsate. You would see the light pulsating from underneath the door. And so John is getting more and more nervous as he's getting closer and closer to this door. And then right as he's about to touch the door and actually go inside, he hears a new sound. And it's coming from behind him. In fact, it's coming from downstairs. It was like this thumping sound, like something thick and meaty was like hitting the wooden floors over and over again. John's first thought was, maybe he left a window open downstairs, and that was just the sound of the rain coming in. But as he's listening to this thumping sound that's getting louder and closer to him, making its way towards the stairs, he's thinking, that can't possibly be the rain. That does not make any sense. So he thought, oh, it's got to be my dog. And so he called out to his dog again, this time much more urgently. Frankly, he wanted the comfort at this point. But the dog didn't come, and that thumping sound continued. And it began to go up the stairs. At this point, John knew he needs to go over and see who is now coming up the
He
stairs.
said, I am.
He has to go. He has to go over. But he's paralyzed with fear. He's in the middle of this huge storm. The power's out. He has no idea what's going on with his wife and his kids. There's this escaped convict down the road. He has all these strange noises in his house. And so he just stands there completely unsure what to do.
Shake it off.
And then finally, as this thumping sound is right about to crest the stairs and be in the hallway, whatever or whoever it was, John turned and just threw open his door, figuring, you know what, at least if I go in my bedroom, I can shut the door and create space between me and whoever this is. But the second he charged into his bedroom, holding the flashlight over his head like a baseball bat, to confront whatever was in there, he just froze, because what he saw in front of him was horrifying. To understand what John saw and why it was so bad, you have to know that overall, John was a pretty nice guy. He was a good father, a good husband. He gave to charity. He took in stray animals. He was the kind of guy who would, if you drop money out on the street, he'd pick it up and give it back to you. He's a good guy. But there was one aspect of his life where John wasn't so nice. In fact, you could make the case that he was sort of a monster himself. John, in one very specific way, was sort of a bully. Every day for the last 5 years, John had been personally bullying and torturing this one victim online, and then also riling up other people to do the same thing. And so on this night, when he flew into his bedroom to escape whatever else was going on in his house, what he saw in his bedroom that was so awful was his victim. And he knew for sure that his victim was here for revenge. John's victim turned attacker was standing right there in the middle of his bedroom, clutching John's dog in their fist, like they were about to squeeze the life out of him. And at the same time, the loud thumping sound that John had run away from into this room that was coming up the stairs, well, John heard it thump against the door to the bedroom. And so John realized that must be another attacker. There's two of them, and now I'm gonna die. And so instinctively, John whipped around and just stared at this door, getting ready for whoever this was to enter the room. And as the door began to swing open, John closed his eyes and put his hands up around his head, bracing for impact. And he's standing there literally waiting to die. But nothing happens. And after a few seconds, John, he opens his eyes and he looks around. And he smiles.
Oh, damn.
It would turn out the monster of Cell Block C really had escaped from that state prison during that riot. And after they got out, they went to John's house. But the monster of Cell Block C was not a dangerous, horrible criminal, at least not to John. In fact, the monster of Cell Block C was one of John's oldest friends. And he had broken out of prison for one reason: to save John and his dog. Immediately after entering the bedroom, the monster of Cell Block C leapt onto the attacker who was holding John's dog hostage and managed to free the dog. The dog ran to safety, and then the monster of Cell Block C basically wrestled the attacker onto the ground and restrained them. And as they did this, John, who's sort of standing off to the side, is so relieved, but also he was suddenly inspired. And he had this idea that not only would defeat his attacker for good, but also would keep his friend, the monster of Cell Block C, from going back to prison. John turned and ran out of the bedroom and went into one of his kids' rooms where he grabbed a frog stuffed animal. He ripped the head off, And then he went back into his own bedroom and superglued the frog head onto the top of his attacker. John's attacker, the one he had bullied for so many years, who had come back for revenge, who was in his bedroom emitting pulsing lights and making dinging sounds and grabbed John's dog by their fist and held them hostage, was none other than the like button. John was actually John Allen, aka me, Mr. Ballin. And with that frog head superglued on top of the like button, now it looked a whole lot like the monster of Cell Block C, which of course was my best friend, Seagull Lung. And so when the police showed up a short time later, they carted away the like button because they looked like the monster of Cell Block C. To this day, the like button is still serving out old Lungy's prison sentence. And as for old Seagull Lung, he's somewhere on a beach in Mexico. And now that this story is over, I can finally say April Fools.
I was about to say, I didn't realize this was an April Fool's one, because I was
With
like,
Lungy now safe on a beach,
now I don't like
button
Mr.
serving
Ballin.
Lungy's prison sentence,
He was about to,
I think it's safe to say that if you come after one of us, you face the wrath of both of us.
he was
So I
about
have
to
one
get
thing to
it.
say to the like button, and that's, don't touch my frog. And so to celebrate that sentiment, and to celebrate April Fool's Day, we have an exclusive and limited merch drop. We have this sweet graphic t-shirt that's sort of a reimagining of one of all of our favorite movies. I'm sure you can see the inspiration. And on the front, it says,
It's a
John
John Wick.
Ballin,
Huh?
don't touch my frog, okay?
That's
pretty
funny.
cool. There's also a poster as well with the same graphic. All you have to do is head on over to shopmrballin.com.
I'm still low-key mad at Mr. Ballin, because I didn't read the date on this one.
shopmrballin.com. Thank you so much for watching.
I was about to
Let me
be
know what you
so
thought of
mad at
today's
him,
episode in the
like,
comments.
what a
And
shitty
remember,
person.
we have
I was about to
videos
go in
for
on
you
Mr.
to binge
Ballin.
right now. But if you're looking for
Alright,
a
let's do it this
recommendation
way.
from me of that
You look
one
like you
video
got a
that's
moon
worth
moon.
your time,
And then just
well,
give him a
it's this
full
one right here.
fupa.
So give it a watch. All right, until next time, see ya.
I think he's gonna be the hardest part. That's why I was like, oh, let me draw these.
Okay, we just wrapped up the 15 city live tour. Like,
Also, let me
literally,
peek
this
at
is my
chat
first
because
day.
I have not. All right, we're good. We're good. We are okay. Excuse me. Pardon me. Y'all shouldn't have to hear that.
Back
This
in the
ain't
studio.
ASMR.
The
This is
tour
story
was
time.
amazing. Really, it was awesome. It was so good to meet the fans of The Strange, Dark, and Mysterious and
Let me go.
person. That was really cool. But I knew
This one's about 10 months ago. But it is also on the Mr. Ballin channel. And I will tag these. I will put the information in the description. I have to redo the entirety of the description because of the mishap earlier. But it's no harm, no foul.
sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
At least I can make the
Today,
title
I'm going
accurate.
to share 3 stories
Wood burning and ballin'.
to demonstrate that, and I'm going to tell them in reverse order. So we go 3, 2, 1, getting weirder and more bizarre as we go along. And also, these stories are of the more spooky variety too. So
All right, let me pause so I can get that little extra buffer together. Ice cream. Girl dinner. Girl dinner. I don't ruin my appetite when I do this. But sometimes, y'all, if it's like tonight where I got to stream and then I have to eat after a stream, working on that timing too. Everything else is getting better. Better each stream. All right, bet. But sometimes I will go ahead and I will, oh, I see. That one had the lag, so the other one wouldn't. Let's run it back. Sometimes I will have girl dinner. I put the whole cone in here and crushed that puppy up, and it was delicious. And I almost made this glass burst because that ice coldness with the with the hot, don't mix those two. But sometimes I will do this, eat my sugars or whatever, dessert or sweet, before I have dinner, and then I'll have dinner after the stream. because I don't want to eat sweets too late. Oh, that's what I was about to grab. I was about to look this up because I want to make sure I do this symbol correctly, because if I don't, we're messed up. We're fudged. All right, there we go. So this originally was just like me playing with this particular tip to start out. And somehow, like with this flow, it made me think of Shikaku from Naruto, Gaara's sand demon one-tailed beast. Man, I don't know how many times I've drawn Gaara, but but this is the first time I'm drawing Shikaku, and I'm like, yo, this is clean. This is clean. Now, if only I can draw this katakana, because if we can't, it's gonna suck. And I think I might go ahead and I might do it this way. So let's go ahead. I need to take this off, but if I take this off, I'm gonna have to put it back on just to do like, and bump that. Just give us some tree lines. Here's back into the stories. Mr. Ballin, 3 strange stories but true, and it's gonna go from, I guess, weird to weirder. Let's hop in.
Stranger than fiction and
Ew, I can't believe I just said let's hop in like every other YouTuber. Ugh, we don't do that over here. We're different. No, I'm kidding. We do it sometimes. If it makes sense.
If that's of interest to you, the next time the like button is counting something really important and they're taking their time counting through it, wait till they get close to the end and then begin wildly shouting out random numbers just to screw them up. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories.
I love the way this looks. I almost went Dragon Egg with it, but then I was like, man, that's too simple. I don't know. I wanted to do Dragon Egg
August 29th, 1954,
but then that just looked like a tail. And I was like,
X-Line had just sat down on her couch with a book inside of her home in Los Angeles when she got this weird wave of anxiety that kind of rushed over. Now, there was nothing she could think of that would cause this line.
More than a feeling.
At around 5 p.m. on August 29th, 1954, a 53-year-old woman named Juliet X-Line had just sat down on her couch with a book inside of her home in Los Angeles when she got this weird wave of anxiety that kind of rushed over her. Now, there was nothing she could think of that would cause her to feel this way, and she even looked around her house thinking, maybe there was something weird going on, but there was nothing. And so finally, Juliet, she put her book down and just took a few calming breaths to kind of go back to normal. Like, she didn't know what was going on, but she could tell she was super anxious. Now, generally speaking, Juliet was a very mellow person. She was not prone to anxiety attacks like this.
I'm about to drop this
and so that kind of caught her off guard.
There we go.
And the only thing she could think of that was different than normal was her husband, Larry, was on a much-needed vacation. And so the last couple of days, while he'd been gone, had been maybe more lonely in the house, and so maybe that was causing her to feel this weird stress. She didn't know, but she told herself, Larry's vacation was definitely a good thing. Larry was an exterminator, and over the past 2 years, he had not taken a single day off. He was a total workaholic, and so when Larry began to talk about wanting to take a break, Juliet had encouraged him for some vacation time, put in a request. And Frank had actually done that, and as soon as his boss had approved a 2-week-long vacation, Larry had been so pumped he'd called his friend, and they had immediately scheduled a fishing trip. And 4 days before, Frank had called his friend for something to talk about taking a single day off. He was a total workaholic, and so
the truck said weed control. I think that's hilarious.
When Larry began to talk about wanting to take a break, Juliet had encouraged him to put in time for some vacation time.
The truck that Larry drives said pest control, but
and as soon as his boss
the fake photos
a 2-week-long vacation, Larry had been so pumped he'd called his friend, and they had immediately scheduled a fishing trip. And 4 days before, Frank and his friend had driven off to enjoy his time off. And so as Juliet thought about that, she told herself that, even if she was feeling a little bit anxious about Larry being gone, it really was a
That's
good thing
gonna look
for Larry,
crazy.
and it would
I'm definitely
improve
gonna
not
have to
only
paint
his
that.
life, but her life as well. This was overall a good thing, and so she just needed to kind of deal with this anxiety that maybe or maybe not was connected to Larry. She didn't know. But for the rest of that evening,
Unplug
Juliet
it,
just could
let it
not
cool
get rid
down.
of this kind of baseline low-level nervousness.
Sorry, Mr. Bond. I'm gonna switch this, but it is terribly hot right now. I just burned my finger already. So we don't want to do that twice in one night. Hopefully. Knocking on wood and burning it too. Now with that being said, you're gonna want this to cool down before you unscrew it. Otherwise, it's gonna be like the other one that's in here, and it's gonna break right off. So let that cool down real quick. And while that's cooling down, take another bite of ice cream. Take another bite of ice cream, baby. That ice cream hit. All right, I like the way the screen, because it, nice. That's still hot. I don't know why I'm playing with it. Get back to the story.
She was feeling, maybe or maybe not, was connected to Larry. She didn't know. But for the rest of that evening, Juliet just could not get rid of this kind of baseline low-level nervousness she was feeling. And so at some point, she began getting up and walking around her house and confirming all the windows were shut and locked and the doors were locked. She was drawing curtains, checking in closets, making sure everything was totally safe. And then by 8 p.m., when she still just could not shake this anxiety, she decided she just needed to go to bed and kind of sleep this off. But after falling asleep, Juliet suddenly woke up at 10:15 p.m., drenched in sweat, with the most intense anxiety she had ever felt in her life. And she was totally disoriented. She's looking around her room like, what's going on here? And then she heard a voice. It was Larry's voice. Except he sounded funny. He sounded like quiet, as if maybe he was outside the house trying to come in and he was calling to her. And so kind of in a panic, she jumped out of bed, ran into the hallway, and right in the hallway was Larry. He wasn't outside. He was right there. Except something was wrong with Larry. He was kind of hunched over and grabbing his stomach, and he had his hand on the wall, and he also appeared to be soaking wet. And so Juliet had no idea what was going on, but between all that anxiety and now seeing Larry here in this weird state, she couldn't help herself. She just ran towards him to just make sure he was okay. But as soon as she got about a foot away from him, he held out his hand and said, "No, don't touch me. I have to go back." And what he said was so disorienting that Juliet just stopped and stared at her husband like, what is this? And that's when she made the startling realization that Larry was not soaking wet with water. He was soaking wet with blood. And he was clutching his stomach like something was bleeding in his midsection. And the reason he had sounded so quiet when he had called out to her and woken her up was because he was clearly hurt. And so Juliet has no clue what's going on. Like, her husband was supposed to be 7 hours away on this fishing trip, and so how is he here? It didn't make any sense. And so really not knowing what else to do, Juliet just said, I'm going to call the doctor. And so she ran past Larry, headed to the kitchen, and she was about to grab the phone on the wall, but before she could grab it, the phone began to ring. And so Juliet just answered it and said, hello, hello? And what she heard was the sound of a sheriff in Ely, Nevada. And he said, excuse me, is this Mrs. Exline, Juliet Exline? And she said, yes, what's going on? What's happened? And the sheriff said, ma'am, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I have some terrible news. Your husband got into a car accident, and unfortunately, he has passed away. And now the second the sheriff said this to Juliet, she just froze and goes, no, that's not possible. He's here with me right now. And Juliet turned around and looked into the hallway where Larry had been standing, and now Larry was gone. Larry really had died in that car accident because Juliet married her husband that week. But Juliet maintained that clearly after her husband had died, his spirit had somehow survived the accident because when she saw her husband standing in the hallway, hunched over and covered in blood, it was at 10:15 p.m. She remembers when she woke up, she saw the time. It was 10:15. And her husband had died at exactly 10:15 p.m. The exact moment she saw him in the hallway. Juliet would ultimately write an account of what she experienced with her husband, However, from that day forward, she never once saw her husband again. That was the only time.
I think moments like that exist. That's terrifying.
At 12:30 p.m. on March 7th, 2015, a police officer named Tyler Beddoes, along with his partner, were driving in his police cruiser near the Spanish Fork River in Utah when suddenly a police dispatcher came on over the radio. And this dispatcher was speaking very urgently and said, "Hey, a fisherman has just called in to say that he spotted what looks like an upturned SUV partially submerged in the Spanish Fork River right underneath the bridge. And whoever is closest to this bridge, get over there and see if there's anybody inside the vehicle that can be saved." And so Officer Beddoes and his partner, they knew they were very near this bridge. And so immediately they banged a U-turn, they drove to the bridge, but from the road they looked down and couldn't see any SUV. But they saw there were some firefighters and paramedics that were also converging at the spot on the road, and everybody's getting out and running down to the riverbank. And so Beddoes and his partner did the same thing. They got out and they ran down, and then finally when they got to the riverbank and they saw underneath this bridge, sure enough, there was this red SUV, upturned, partially submerged, and he noticed right away that none of the doors had been opened in this SUV, and so it meant whoever was driving this vehicle when it flipped over very likely was still inside. And so Officer Beddoes and his partner and the other first responders just jumped into this icy cold river and began making their way closer and closer to this upturned SUV, which again, it's not fully submerged. It's like a third of the way underwater. So if you were sitting in the seat inside of this vehicle and you were an adult, your head would basically be in the water if you were still strapped into the seat. And as they're making their way towards this SUV, when they got close enough, they began hearing a woman inside of the vehicle screaming, "Hey, we're in here! Come over here, help!" But when Officer Beddoes and the rest of the first responders actually reached the SUV, the water was so murky and it basically completely covered up the windows that they weren't really able to look into the vehicle. They could just hear this woman yelling, but that was it. And then when they tried to open up the doors, they couldn't do it because the roof had begun to cave in, and so the actual framing of the door wouldn't open. And so all these first responders, it's like their adrenaline's pumping, and they're like, "Come on, we got to push this thing up onto its side so we can get in." And so all these first responders are pushing and pushing, and slowly but surely they began to raise the side of this vehicle up until the windows suddenly were clear, and Officer Beddoes and the others were able to look into the car, and they saw there was a woman in the driver's seat, and there was a baby in a car seat dangling upside down in the back seat, still strapped in. And so Beddoes began screaming, "There's a baby in here, there's a baby in here." And suddenly it was like everybody got extra strength and they pushed this vehicle all the way up onto its side.
Babies
and then one of the firefighters climbed up onto the side of the car, which now was the highest point of the car, and he reached in and he clipped these straps holding the baby who had been upside down, dangling there, cut the straps and pulled the baby out and handed the baby over to Officer Beddoes. And then the firefighter began doing the same thing to get the woman out. But Officer Beddoes, at this point, he just took this baby, he turned away, he figured the first responders will handle this woman, and he's going to take this baby to safety, because he couldn't even tell if the baby was alive or not. And so he's cradling this baby, he's rushing back through the water, back to the riverbank, and then he hands the baby over to the paramedics, and right as he does, he sees this little baby begins to move its arms and flicker its eyes, and he wanted to weep out of relief that this child was okay.
That is terrifying.
They put the baby onto a stretcher, they put the baby in the ambulance, and they whisked the baby away to the hospital where this baby would survive. But after the baby had been taken away, Officer Beddoes turned his attention back to the SUV and back to the woman to see how she was doing. But he could tell right away from the way people were acting, all the other first responders that were still dealing with the crisis in the water, the way they were acting indicated that something is off here. Well, it would turn out 14 hours earlier, so at around 10 p.m. the previous night, a 25-year-old woman named Jennifer Grossbeck had just left her father's house in Salem, Utah, and in her car was her little 18-month-old baby, Lily, who was in the back seat. And after Jennifer pulled away from her father's house and her father's on the porch waving to her, she began driving towards her home. But something happened around 10:30 p.m. that night. We don't know what, but something caused Jennifer to careen off the road on that bridge and flip over and land in the water. Maybe she fell asleep at the wheel or an animal jumped out, we don't know. But we know at 10:30, she careens off the bridge and she lands in that river. And then for 14 hours, she and her baby remained upside down in that river. Until finally, Officer Beddoes and the other first responders came rushing over to open it up and get them out of there. And if you recall, all the first responders, Officer Beddoes included, heard Jennifer screaming that they were in the car, "Come save us, please." But what they would find out is that could not have been Jennifer, because Jennifer was killed on impact when the car fell into the water. Only Lily survived the crash, and then Lily, who's nearly hypothermic and she's upside down with water like 2 inches away from her head for 14 hours, she dangled there.
As an
And when she was pulled
18-month-old?
out, according to doctors, was like a couple of minutes before she would have died from hypothermia. And so without that voice, Lily almost certainly would have died, because it was the sound of that voice that really encouraged all these first responders to find the strength and get that car up on its side and then get the baby out of there. We don't know whose voice that belonged to, but for sure, it saved Lily's life. And again, baby Lily would make a full recovery. And to this day, Officer Meadows and the other first responders, they know what they heard, and they do not have an explanation for it. Do you like scary stories about cryptids, the paranormal, the supernatural, bizarre true crime?
I sure do.
Well, I have a podcast for you to check out. It's called Bedtime Stories, and it's a weekly podcast from our studio, Ballin Studios, that I know you will love if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious. With every episode of Bedtime Stories, I feel totally creeped out by the end. They're just so good at building the suspense and just making it feel really unsettling. You may have heard of Bedtime Stories because they actually have an amazing YouTube channel that I've been a subscriber to for years. They're literally my favorite YouTube channel, not a lie. That's the one I go to. That's my favorite channel. But now they're available in podcast form as well. And if you stick around till the end of this YouTube video, I will play you a clip from one of their newest podcast episodes,
so
you can get a feel for what it's going to be like. And when you're done listening to that clip, if you liked it, please go and follow and binge Bedtime Stories on whichever podcast platform you listen on. Okay, back to the stories.
I'm going to tell you the name of the last one, and I ain't going to tell you this
At around
one.
9 p.m. on October 26th, 2000.
Wrong path.
At around 9 p.m. on October 26th, 2009, a 19-year-old college student named Miyako Hiroka bagged up the last bit of trash inside of the ice cream parlor where she worked, and she dumped it into a bag, and she tied that bag up. It was closing time, and so Miyako looked around the inside of the parlor, made sure everything was where it was supposed to be, and then she flipped off the lights, threw her purse over her shoulder, she grabbed that bag of trash, she headed outside the parlor, she shut and locked the door, she dumped the trash in a nearby bin, and then began walking towards the exit of the mall, which is where this parlor was located. It was inside of this big mall. Miyako went to school in a city called Hamada City, which is located on the coast of Japan in an area called the Shimane Prefecture. And Hamada City was a totally beautiful and very remote location with these amazing beaches and unbelievable mountains with all these ski resorts on it. I mean, this was an incredible place to live. But as much as Miyako did love living there, she was actually far more excited about where she'd be living the next year because she was doing an exchange program. She'd be studying in Russia, and that was so exciting for her. And in fact, this exchange program was the reason why Miyako had picked up this job at this ice cream parlor, because she came from a family that was not poor by any means, but they didn't have a lot of extra income, and Miyako felt strongly that she really wanted to pay her way to go do this big Russian exchange program, because it wasn't cheap. So she was picking up as many shifts as she could to save up money to pay her way. And so Miyako eventually reached the exit of this mall, and she stepped outside into the night, and then she had a decision she needed to make, and she needed to make this decision every night after work. There were two ways that she could get back to her dorm, which was located about a mile away. The quick way would be to just hop on a bus and have the bus take her to her dorm, but that cost money, and remember, Miyako is trying to save up as much money as she can to pay for Russia next year, and so taking the bus just felt like, not really worth it. And the other option, which was free, was much longer and frankly just plain spooky, and Miyako hated it. What it entailed was basically just walking to her dorm, but it would mean walking for about a third of a mile through this really spooky forest.
Give me the bus. What?
Now, up until recently, Miyako's coworker had always left with her at the same time, and they lived roughly in the same area, and so they would walk together through that forest, saving money, and also, providing each other security as they went through this spooky area. Recently, the coworker had quit, and so now Miyako was all alone. And so as Miyako stood there wondering what she should do, take the bus route or take the forest route, she just thought about, next year, it's all going to be worth it. I'm going to go to Russia. I'm going to pay my way. It's going to be awesome.
Let me interrupt this story real quick, because ain't no flipping way any trip that ain't tomorrow is more important any trip that ain't within the hour, because let me just say, tomorrow's not guaranteed neither. And we gonna figure out what happened in the story in a second. But if you have a decision to make and you are trying to budget money and your choice is to put my life in danger, because that's what it is, or to take the less riskier route for my life so that way I can make it to next year, so that way I can even plan this trip, so I can make it back home that night and get some good food, a good shower, and lay my head on a nice clean pillow. It ain't worth it. There's no rationalizing that. All right, there just ain't. Is my tablet about to die? I forgot it's on 20%. It'll be okay. It should make it until the end of the night. I'm gonna finish this up in the next 15 minutes. I want to burn this symbol in here as well. That's gonna be hot. I was gonna do like a tree landscape. My trees need help. That's how we ended up with this. We gonna fix it though. I will end up painting this so you can see the difference in the background. I love the sandiness like in between the burns and stuff because that's what your boy look like. He look a little sandy. He looks a little sandy. So there's Shikaku. What? I almost dropped it. There's the pencil version, and the symbol that I'm drawing is the... I don't remember now. I knew what the... Yeah, okay. It is love. It is love. I was like, I think it's love, but let me just scroll down and see if they say it. Because this is my boy. That's my boy right there. Look, he clean with it. Look, that older Gara too. That's Shippuden Gara. But what you want to talk about character development? His is better than Sasuke. I wish we had the storyline of Gara more so than Sasuke's. I said what I said. Anyway, let's see what happened to this chick. Not taking the bus, walking through a forest in the middle of the night just to save money for a trip that she might not make it to. But I digress.
Next year, it's all going to be worth it. I'm going to go to Russia. I'm going to pay my way. It's going to be awesome. And after all, what's the worst that can happen? It's just a few minutes walking through a forest I've done dozens of times. Before long, I'll be in my brightly lit, safe dorm room, studying away, and everything will be fine. And so Miyako turned and began walking towards the forest. The following day, a little past 4 p.m., the owner of the ice cream shop where Miyako worked was standing inside the parlor feeling really annoyed because Miyako had not shown up for her shift, and now the owner, who normally did a lot of administrative and managerial things, was stuck at the counter serving all the customers, basically doing Miyako's job. But when 5 p.m. came and still Miyako had not shown up, and the owner had tried calling her and she didn't pick up, and there was just no sign of her, the owner went from being annoyed to being somewhat worried. And so after again not being able to call Miyako to figure out what was going on, he wound up going through her file and finding her mother's phone number, and he called her. And when he spoke to Miyako's mother, he knew right away there was something wrong. Because Miyako's mother actually was pretty panicked, and she said, you know what? Last night when Miyako was coming home from work, she told me she would call me when she got to her dorm, but I never heard from her, and I haven't been able to get in touch with her since. And so after this conversation ended, Miyako's mother would call the police and report her daughter missing. And pretty much instantly, the police in Hamada City responded in force. I mean, they launched a huge investigation to go figure out what happened to Miyako.
That's
and
refreshing.
really the reason behind that is because Hamada City is this unbelievable place, this secluded, safe place where things like this did not happen. And frankly, it scared everybody, and they wanted to deal with it as quickly as possible. And so what police did at first is they went and looked at security footage from the ice cream parlor where they knew she had been working on the night she went missing. And sure enough, at about 9:16 p.m., there's footage of her walking out of the ice cream parlor in the mall. She's got a purse over her shoulder, and she shuts and locks the door, she throws the trash away, and then she heads towards the exit. But after that, nobody saw her. There was no more footage, there was no more tips or anything. She just vanished once she left the mall. And so very quickly, this story gained lots of attention because, again, Hamada City is like this quintessential vacation spot. It's so perfect, it's so safe. And to have this girl just go missing, it was scandalous. And so it made the news all over Hamada City, and also people who lived in Hamada City were suddenly on edge at night. What's out there snatching people up? In fact, Miyako's college, during the few days following her disappearance, they set a curfew for all their students. Like, all their students had to be back in their dorms at a certain time to keep them safe. But again, despite the police really leaning into this case from the jump and putting all their manpower and all their resources into this, they really had no idea what happened to Miyako. Then, on November 6th, 2009, so 11 days after Miyako went missing, a man who was hunting for mushrooms up on this mountainside about 15 miles away from the ice cream parlor believed he spotted this beautiful mushroom sitting underneath a few fallen leaves. And so excited, the guy runs over and he begins moving away the leaves to grab this big meaty mushroom. But as soon as he grabbed the skin of this mushroom and began to pull, he stopped. And then he quickly turned and began sprinting back down the path that had brought him up here. And as he was running, he pulled his phone out and he saw he had no service, and he just kept on running and holding the phone up, looking for service. And then finally, when he was about halfway down the mountain, he saw he had service in his phone, and he called the police. And the second the dispatcher answered, this man began screaming, "I found a human head!" When police arrived on that mountainside where this man claimed to have found a human head, well, they confirmed he was right. They found Miyako's severed head right underneath those leaves. And the reason this guy thought her head was a mushroom, a dark-colored mushroom, because it was obvious that Miyako's face had been so badly beaten, it was all black and blue, before she lost her head. And so this mushroom hunter had literally thought that was a big, big mushroom. And so at this point, the Hamada City Police shifted their area of search from around the mall and the ice cream parlor where they thought they would find Miyako, to this forested mountain area where her head was found. And now, of course, it was no longer a search and rescue, it was a recovery mission. They're just looking for the rest of Miyako's body. And over the next couple of days, as police searched this forested mountainside, they would find different parts of Miyako all over the place. And then after they had found, all the pieces to Miyako, the running theory, based on what they were seeing, is that very likely she had been strangled to death, and then her body was burned, and then she was dismembered and scattered throughout this forested mountain area. But there was very little evidence about who had actually done this to Miyako. Miyako had no enemies to speak of. Everybody who spoke about Miyako said she was incredibly lovely and kind, and really there wasn't anybody in her life that would want to do her harm. And also because Miyako's body had been destroyed and left out for so long, any trace evidence left behind by her killer or killers was basically non-existent. And so the police really had no leads to speak of. They had no suspects or anything. And so they called in psychologists to try to make, a profile of who they thought might have done this. And the best theory anyone could come up with was that this had been a random crime of opportunity, that the person who killed her didn't know her, and that likely her killer was a man who was likely between the ages of 20 and 40. But even that information really didn't narrow anything down. And so quickly, this case began to go cold.
I know what to do with
But
that.
as the police investigation itself began to go cold, the kind of lore around this story was only growing. I mean, this really seemed like a totally unbelievable case, considering where it happened. I mean, Hamada City is like this perfect place. How could this happen here? And so what started as being kind of a local news story, albeit a big local news story, became a major national story all over Japan. And so all these TV outlets and journalists were descending on Hamada City, and they were taking video of the ice cream parlor and of the police department and filming Miyako's dorm and school and her parents' house. I mean, there were people all over the place trying to get any bit of information to report on about this case. And despite there being dozens and dozens of these live reports basically every day coming out of Hamada City about this case and about Miyako, there was one particular news report that took this case from being, totally unfortunate and sad and tragic and horrible to completely unbelievable and bizarre. Shortly after Miyako's remains had basically all been found, but they were still doing some recovery operations up on that mountainside, one of these kind of random TV reporters who was in Hamada City to report on this crazy case decided to set up their TV camera so it was pointing towards the dark entrance of that spooky forest that Miyako would walk through to get back to her dorm. And so this TV news reporter's got their microphone and, they're standing with the forest entrance right behind them, and the cameraman's filming, looking towards this opening of the forest. And the actual report was pretty generic. I mean, this reporter was basically saying, well, coming at you live from Hamada City, just outside of the forest where perhaps Miyako was killed. And it was just like that. It was just kind of talking about the case, and there was nothing to it. At least not to the TV reporter and the cameraman who were on site. Because for them, the entire report was pretty routine. They did their job, they got their shot, they got their report, and then they left. They streamed it live.
That has to feel
so while they were
nasty.
doing it, all these people
Like
are tuned in,
nasty.
watching this news report live in front of this forest. And something really unsettling happened on this broadcast.
We got photos?
While that news reporter was talking,
No.
another voice began to be heard by people watching this broadcast. And it was not the cameraman, and it was certainly not the TV journalist. It was a woman's voice. And there was no woman anywhere near the shot. And after the fact, the journalist and the cameraman would also attest that there was nobody around. It was
Okay,
just
are we
them.
gonna
But
get
this
we getting
detached, very
justice from
pained
Miyako?
voice said very clearly, and all these people heard it live, this is very painful. Why only me?
広島県北広島町の我流山の林道の入り口です。今日の捜索は午後5時で終了し、私の後ろに張られていた規制線も現在は解かれています。
And so after this news report happened, this story, this case about Miyako, went from being just a Japanese story to being like an international sensation. Because everybody believed when they saw this video that voice that was heard was Miyako's ghost, basically talking on camera. That's why you can't see her. It's her spirit communicating with the living world. However, despite that drawing even more attention to this case, it didn't remotely help the police actually solve the case. They still had no idea who did this. And that's how this case would stay for years, just totally stalled. That is, until 7 years later, when a police officer was conducting a routine police review of old criminal case files
That's
that
not
hadn't
the
been
best way to
solved,
test that.
going
Just
through them
watch
all
for
to see if
smoke.
maybe evidence had been missed, and maybe that was why the case had not been solved. And so this police officer is looking through all these case files, and when they landed on the Miyako case, they did discover a piece of evidence that had been totally overlooked. It was the file of a convicted sex offender named Yoshiharu Yano. Yoshiharu was a 33-year-old man who had served time in prison for assaults on 3 different women in Tokyo, which is 500 miles away from Yamada City, where Miyako was killed. And because of that 500-mile gap between Tokyo and Hamada City, Yoshiharu had been completely overlooked in terms of being a suspect in Miyako's murder. It just seemed like he was too far away to be involved. But the police officer who was doing that routine review, they discovered that right before Miyako was murdered, this Yoshiharu guy had been let out of prison and decided to live in Hamada City. And on the night Miyako was killed, when she decided to walk into that forest,
That's
well,
insane.
they found security footage of Yoshiharu's car driving along around that forest and up near that mountain where Miyako's remains were all discovered. And so this investigator who discovered this piece of information got permission from higher-ups to search Yoshiharu's home where he was living right then. And when they searched his home, they discovered a digital camera with 40 photos on it that would explain what happened to Miyako. It was very clear Yoshiharu had murdered Miyako because some of the pictures contain photos of Miyako, and they are just horrible. But figuring out who Miyako's killer was not the end of this case. In fact, it wasn't even the most shocking part of this case. The most shocking part of this case is what happened to Miyako's killer, Yoshiharu, basically right after she was murdered, and that voice, that detached female voice, was heard on that TV news report. 7 years earlier, right around the time that Miyako's head had been found, and also after that voice had been heard on the TV newscast, some people who were driving in a car north of Hamada City began calling the police to report something very strange. They called the police and said, there is this small white Toyota Corolla car that has 2 people inside of it, and they've driven to the side of the road, and the driver is ramming over and over again against the railing. Like they're smashing into the railing, backing up, smashing over and over again, like the car is somehow in control. They don't understand how these people are not getting out of the car. Like, what are they doing? Traffic had stopped on either side. It was just totally nonsensical. And then by the time the police showed up, this car that was just
we're going to get back to it. What you just saw me do it in a safe environment. Don't do it near anything that can be flammable. No kindling, no nothing like that. No dried sticks, paper, no nothing like that. And if you are under 18, always, always, always have parental guidance when using flames or wood burners, because you can go to the hospital using them. And you can do that with pencils, but you know, this is more dangerous of a medium to work with. So just be mindful, be careful, make sure that the area that you're using your wood burner in, your lighter, whatever that is non-flammable, and you have maybe metal, ideally metal, or if you're doing it in like in a parking lot, just make sure you, please don't, but like please don't, but you know, I'm trying to think of places where people do art that sometimes aren't ideal spaces. Just make sure it's not near cars, batteries, all that stuff. Okay, that's my disclaimer and my warning. I did my little lighter trick, but I did it safely, soundly, and I didn't hold it on there long enough for it to catch a bigger flame, because that is also possible. Yes, it is. Do not do it. Be safe. Love you.
Repeatedly.
Sorry.
How these people are not getting out of the car. Like, what are they doing? Traffic had stopped on either side. It was just totally nonsensical. And then by the time the police showed up, this car that was just repeatedly driving into the side of this guardrail, it burst into flames with the two people inside still clearly alive and looking terrified, and they caught on fire and died. Now, at the time, this did make the news. It looked very much like some sort of weird murder-suicide where the driver had intentionally, driven the car until it burst into flames and killed themselves and also their passenger. But it didn't really amount to more than just a really weird news story, because there was no connection to the Miyako case. This is like a totally isolated thing. However, 7 years later, when that police officer discovered the link that Yoshiharu was in Hamada City, and then they figured out, yep, Yoshiharu was the killer, well, suddenly, that totally weird murder-suicide took on a whole new meaning, because the driver of that car was Yoshiharu, and the passenger was his mother. And again, from eyewitness testimony, it didn't really make sense the way this all happened. It was almost like the car was possessed or something, that, the passengers couldn't control it. Now, who knows if that's true, but when you combine it with the sound of that female voice on the TV news camera that everybody assumed was Miyako's ghost saying, "This is so painful, why only
a Chillis
me?"
Arts video
Suddenly
game
those
of
words
this.
took on a new meaning. People thought, you know what it is? Miyako's ghost must have taken control of that car and made sure not only Yoshiharu suffered and died, but his family member died as well, that she was seeking her revenge on her killer. As promised, here is a clip from the newest episode of the Bedtime Stories podcast. Enjoy.
Despite the invention of satellite communications and GPS tracking, ships and planes continue to vanish from across the globe, leaving no trace of their passing. Simultaneously, the remains of mysterious boats wash up on remote shorelines, their identities long since removed by the effects of weathering and decay. It has been theorized that there are places on this earth where time operates in a somewhat different manner, where some invisible portal or corridor is capable of propelling a vehicle and its occupants to a very different moment in history, both in the future and the past. Could it be that this outlandish theory is the reason behind some of the inexplicable disappearances that take place on a near-daily basis?
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed that clip, be sure to go follow and binge the Bedtime Stories podcast on whichever podcast platform you listen to. New episodes come out every Wednesday. So, that's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you want to hear more strange, dark, and mysterious stories, remember, we have a whole slew of podcasts under the Ballin Studios bannerhead. Just search for Ballin Studios on any podcast platform, and you will have hundreds and hundreds of strange, dark, and mysterious stories to binge. Thank you so much. Until next time, see ya. Wait, don't go anywhere. If you're looking for more strange, dark, and mysterious videos, click here.
So it's funny. I am of the strange, dark, and mysterious fan base. I don't work with them. I would love to work with them. I would love to do stories with Mr. Ballin. Like, I'm gonna study that man's storytelling for real, because I know how I tell a story, and I like how I tell a story, but you know, it's one thing to call yourself a fan, but if you're not learning from that person, what do you... I mean, I guess you get entertainment too. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everything has to be so serious, and that's the best thing about life. Because no matter what, it's gonna keep going. It keeps going. So, with that being said, I'm gonna shut up, do this, play some music in the background for you guys for the last 30 minutes. And we are also going to add something. There was something that I wanted to do like a fun clock design, but we do have a whole video of a fun clock design. So I don't know if that's really gonna hit. But I don't mind. I can redo it. Because this is different. This one's for time management. That's what we're working on. And honestly, I feel like maybe I shouldn't do that one because we're currently working on it. But I know I'm going to get it down, so being on a vision board, that's kind of what it's for, right? An InVision board. Don't forget your manners. Now right here, I am pushing on it sideways, so that way if my hand were to slip, it would ideally slide this way, past my thumb, probably knock the camera down, but I don't care as long as I don't like, because I did that the first handful of them. I was like, yeah, sliding it with my finger while pushing this forward, and it just whoosh, it sucks every single time. It's gonna suck, so just take the step to avoid it. That's the best advice I can give when working with even hot stuff, but even drills and knives. Like, y'all done seen me stab my thumb a couple of times with the X-Acto knife. Why is it not coming up? I'm trying to get this music for y'all, but the artist that I'm looking for, there we go. This is on Spotify. I'll drop all the information below when I do the description. Shaking and wondering like a washer offline. After some type of way, but God will make a way in due time. I love the passion, come with the pain. Original like a donut without the glaze. Going through some things that I can't escape. Defeat fate, but it's gonna play how it play. Illuminate the ride, going through the struggle and shine. Until I rise, like hot dogs and some fries. Hand cut with a knife, that's how I like. Cultivate, ayy, take it from the rain like a whip in the wind. With a broken sunroof, you're not what you've been through. And God got you. And God got you. Guys, got me. And God got you. My purpose is to show you how to jump through these hurdles. I stumble sometimes, so failure makes me nervous. Survival while I'm pushing through these times. The spirit is the main thing that I'm yearning for. Proper mindset just to scratch the surface. I can be mad for the things that I fall behind the curtains, but I'm grateful for my purpose. Cause too much power will keep you sipping on the bourbon. Pour it on the concrete for the ones who died me, Sir Ernest listening. Changing things in the living. I make it look easy. Sugar honey iced tea. I am gonna have to run this design back because I like this one. This one's going up here. Nobody gets this one. I want this one. I might do Gara's eye on the back too. Like low key have a. I'll do another one. I want to keep this one because it's the first one that I did. I might do another one and make that one for sale in the future, whenever. But yeah, I want to keep this one. I want to keep this. That's because my hand's getting stuck. Oh, this about to die. About to die. I scratched it. That's crazy. Well, it still kind of works, I think. If I remember correctly, it's just like. It's like jazz. This is me rushing since my tablet's about to die. I want to make sure y'all see me finish this. I'll try not to mess it up too bad. Damn, I went way too far. That's how I know I'm keeping this one and I'm gonna do another one. But I love this design. I gotta finish it. All this music playing right now is go on Spotify or YouTube music and type in So Proper. You'll find these gems. That's hilarious. How does it on beat? Will it stretch? Because I'll extend the time if it will stretch. Oh, that's what I did last time. Sorry about all that work. And that's my favorite track too. Mr. Marvin. Oh, it's loose. It's loosey goosey. I gotta tighten it. It's hot. That's why I wore this particular shirt. Shout out to the homie Planet, Planetary Aesthetics. Sorry, I'm burning the shirt. Still got them though. There we go. Oop. Yeah, we gonna finish this no matter what. And I'ma still... add... I'm add something. I'm add something. I'm gonna add something. I'm gonna add something. I'm gonna add something. Talking about nut. Talking about nut. Talking about nut. I'm gonna add something.
And now, two pigeons bemoaning the fact you can choose the TV you want with DirecTV.
So now they can pick out their favorite entertainment.
Ooh, I'm cold. For a hot split second, I almost forgot the camera was rolling. Excuse me. I'm cold though. Ooh, heck yeah. Look at the coat is on. Bruh, if you don't know, I'ma put you on. I'ma put you on. I'ma put you on. I'ma put you on. I'ma go on. Like a goat on. I'ma put you on. Excuse me. Golly. Did I breathe in a wood chip? I hope not. I'm so glad I had all the good energy today, so I could pass them on to y'all. I hope your day's going all right. I hope your day's going well, your evening's going better, and your tomorrow is smoother than today was. Well, I guess I should say tomorrow's a good Friday. So, for those of y'all that celebrate it. Oh, it's these chills. I am underweight. I need to lock in and bulk up. Where I was. Ooh, I missed my 169. It was so comforting. It was so nice. It was so warm. There I go. One day I'm gonna record a behind the live viewpoint, so y'all could see how stupid this this looks. But it's like, hey, We work with what we got until we can get better. I low-key feel like a dentist, like, like, hold still. No, I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. I've never had a dentist like that. Thank goodness. Love. Let me clean this part up. Yeah. Look. Let me stop. This song is really freaking good. I like this song.
Let me pop my shit. I might pop a pill. Baby, tell me how you feel. Big old nigga, and I'm looking like I'm worth a meal. So she
It's explicit.
whispered in my ear, did you sign a deal? No, bitch. Hercules, everybody at my table gotta eat, gotta eat.
I'm gonna unplug this and switch over to sketching. This little clock for the last 3 minutes. My nose. I don't like that. Alright, I'm just gonna. Oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that works. Just said play me again. I ain't say all that. It is hitting though. It was hitting. It was banging. For the last couple of minutes, I'm gonna switch it to Chuki while I sketch. Chuki Beats. Ooh, Chuki Beats on YouTube. This is chill old school music. Oh, my toe! Don't worry about that. Alright, how did I do this before? I shouldn't die before I finish sketching. Did I have it like that? No, I think I had it the other way. Yeah, YouTube. I know. Yeah, I think I had it that way so I could see it. Oh, that was perfect, actually. Very nice. I dropped half my setup. The canister that holds the camera. Alright. Okay, y'all can see this. I'm gonna keep my head out of it. We're gonna be... don't know if you guys can even see that where I'm working at. I'm sorry it's so far away. We're working on time management as a channel. That's on me mostly. But we are working on time management, and as we develop more, we'll be able to get that like as crisp and as sharp as this hand is. We got one hand on there, but it's only holding on by tape. We're getting it together though. So let's keep going. I told you I wanted to add at least one a week. Oh, maybe not one a week. Because I do want this to stretch out throughout the year. You never know. We do a lot. It took a lot to get to this point. So let's celebrate it. I just wanted to clean that part up. I didn't catch it that time. I fumbled. Darn it, Piccolo. Piccolo! Sure has somewhere over here. So much admin stuff. My desk looks cluttered right here. We're not going to be particular. I am rushing.
This is a Chuki production.
That put me in a different headspace. Oh, that's because that is a whole different person. And I'm over time, but I'm going to still keep drawing this because I can. But also because I want to do something more fun with, I don't know. know what else I want to do with the clock. What else do I want to do with the clock? Is it the same vibes? Do 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 do. No, let me put. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. My bad. My bad. There you go. But is it going to do what I need it to do? There we go. Alright, when that cue is over, that's when we'll end. Sure. I like it. I like it. Yo, we used to be night owls. I low-key, I thought about that. And I just started drawing clouds, but the clouds, you know. We did play this one.
Sit the fuck down when I'm talking to the children. Excuse yourself from the room while we build it. The kind of thing that will make your mom trip up with. You can trip up and fall down on the ceiling. Yeah, we that real, we do it with the least. Straight peaceful, resilient. And we coming by the billions, we ain't the billions. That's old news in my own view. They have a big man's red, open, yellow, green, umber. Stay with the hues. Shades for days, we stay paid in ways we got major pain. It's like shame how we stay with the blues. On a midday afternoon, any which way that you move. It's a chess game if you in the wrong lane and you mean anything that you say is a tool. The difference of a grave from a pool in the back of a safe fam home with a big yard in the driveway with a car full of food. The kitchen with a fridge full of food. Bedroom with a king size bed full of clothes and shoes. A closet in the back and a rack with a box full of crack and a sack full of jeans and a safe and a wall in the middle with a hallway right behind a portrait of a mule.
Hey, wait and see that wrist glow. Oh, no, I ain't selling shit. No,
put something in your mind and you're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I know how it's gonna turn out. And I'm like, it didn't turn out the way when I wanted it to. What is this? A cactus lemon slice? That doesn't look like a. What is that? Is that a vine? A vine? A vine? Oh my god, I'm sorry. We created some really dope art tonight, though. I'll tell you that. Hold on. We're gonna fix this moon. That's what it's supposed to be. Ooh. The tablet said, I am parched and I need power. Throw me on the charger. Where's the charger? Oh, but I can't. Alright, so I really do have to end the stream soon. Just so y'all can see what I'm doing. There we go. Alright. I promise. By the end of this playlist, they're all quick songs. That's why I'm like, yeah, by the end of this quick playlist, I will list all of the music because we went through stories, music, everything tonight. I'm tired as freak, and it's only 9:18. It has been a long day with like 3-4 hours of sleep and just staring at screens all day. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna wrap this up. We're gonna fix this moon. I'll say something inspiring for you guys, and then I'll go to bed because I'm looking at my eyes and they look strained. So thank you guys for being here. For real, thank you for being here. It's been a little dry this week on the channel. Memory issues, but I got you. That just means I have multiple videos for you, so this weekend, 100%, I got you. So properties, YouTube.
Take me for a ride. I know you've been waiting. Drive to the West Coast, Hollywood and LA. Feel like I'm on the way.
Build character, will pop in there
I know where to go.
in the canvas.
I know. Down the West Coast,
Oh, wow.
Mexico,
It's good.
down the West Coast, Colorado, California, down the
Oh,
West Coast.
I low-key want to drive away. So either moon. It might end up changing into it. I'm asleep on it. It has to relate to the channel. Anime, yes. I don't have any anime references. Piccolo.
Down the West Coast, Colorado, California. Down the West Coast, New Mexico, Nevada. Down the West Coast.
We're gonna get these stars down at a third quarter view. I just need practice. Clearly.
Into my arms, and now you're calling. I'ma pick up the phone. You never have to be alone.
I forgot what video we use this for, but we use this for a video though. That's our current anime reference. We have so many though, because the trays and everything else, but where's the, oh, it's just, there's the top. I know we listen to it, but it's my favorite, and I had to run it back. H8. HooT house. My eyes. I just keep looking, and I'm like, golly, girl, get some rest. Stop working so hard. You deserve rest. Don't earn it. You deserve it. That goes for you too. That's tonight's wood burning shikaku from Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Gaara's one-tailed beast with his symbol love. This was my first time just doing an image, pretty much drawing with it, or like painting with it. I'm not mad at it. Like, without sketching it first. This one I did sketch first, but I did rush it, so if you rush wood burning, it's gonna look like this every single time. Don't rush. And you might burn yourself if you do, so be careful. But I started off just doing that, and I was thinking, oh, dragon egg, and then I was like, nah, it's too cheesy. So let's go ahead and do his tail, like all around, and then have him sitting in the back. I think I'm gonna bulk his tail out a little over his belly, even though I did the little lines, and I gotta add more lines to his body too. I wanted to switch the part, and I didn't want to take too much time tonight, so I will fix that. But we got a tree line that I didn't like it, so I was just like, we're not gonna burn that one in there. But we also did the Gaara Love katakana. I think that would be katakana. I might be incorrect. If it is not, correct me. Teach me. I'm open-minded. Open-minded. Correct that. As we grow, with all the rain, all the laughs, I just want to thank you once again for being here with me, for enjoying this, for having fun. I'm gonna run through this with you guys real quick, and then I'm gonna cut the video. Your girl tired. I need rest. Alright. Oh, this was made with me in mind. I love handmade gifts. Oh. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Now, so we're working on, there we go. We're working on time management. So we got our little worker people clearly relaxing at night. This is what I should be doing right about now, what I'm about to be doing. We got the canvas that we got to finish. So I'm going to do that video wise, so it's not a long process. It'll be a two-parter, one for the sketch, one for the painting. So the painting might be affirmations, the sketch might be just the storyline, the background of it. Because we obviously are night owls and we do our best work at night, for some reason. That should not be, I need rest. Behind our little worker guys, I was thinking cells at work for that, by the way, and this is a rope, but behind them are clouds and stuff. You got the floating rock in the front. And I don't know. To be honest, I saw the little smudge marks from my hand. I'm sorry. There you go. From my hand and stuff on here. And I was just like, oh, that looks like a cloud. That looks like a cloud. That looks like a cloud. And I just went with it. And I love how it turned out. Now, I did put the moon up closer just because I was like, well, we're night owls right next to the canvas that we got to finish. Above that is little me stepping on the tube like, and I don't think I want to claim these as me's, you know? Like I do, but I don't. Maybe I'll make tiny owls for you guys, little owlets. No, I'm kidding. I don't call you that. You're visionaries. But last chat, somebody said, play button, play button. So I was like, okay, play button. And then I was like, well, I think after the first one, they give you a, I don't know. I don't be paying attention to that. I just be along for the ride and enjoying the journey. Talking too fast. 102 subscribers. Thank you guys for being here. You guys make this an interesting experience. And I learn a lot about myself. So I like it. I love it. And I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Clearly you do. Thank you for being here. Tea time, where we do tea facts, not tea facts, tea benefits for your health. Like chamomile for rest or lung tea for strengthening your lung cells, bladder wick to clean out your bladder, stuff like that. Oh, talking so much, my throat's dry. Okay. So Tea Time also has either a poem or a story, but it also has artwork. So I also went ahead and just did one of our actual Tea Time images is a cup. And that is also on, I don't know, it's not on a shirt. It's on a mouse pad or something. But that goes into the voiceover, into the voice acting. I might go ahead and I might leave this open for the first character that I get a chance to play that I am able to share with you guys. So I've done a couple of smaller jobs that don't really hit media, but it's like, yeah, I'll do this. That looks fun. That sounds fun. I'm that type of artist. Like, yeah, I'll help you out in this thing. That sounds cool. When we do our goodie bags, we like to do like fun stuff, something that's going to challenge your mind, but not in a crazy way. We did Play-Doh at the book launch, and then we had incense, and then we had little wooden feathers for people. I am going to wood burn some of those where to say hashtag Visionarieshoot, because I like how they came out when I did the one for that chick Angel. We also have little wooden eggs that I have not decided what I want to put on them, but clearly I got to figure that out because this weekend is Easter. So I'm going to have to sneak those into people's pockets that I care about, that I'm going to see throughout the weekend. Like, hey, just give me a hug real quick. Boop. Reverse pickpocket. They're like tiny wooden eggs. So they're like that big. Anyway. We also have the Dragon Ball alluding to Piccolo, the sketch that we did, and the painting and hand painting that we did. Ooh. We have an X-Acto knife because your girl cuts herself. I'm gonna put a little drop of blood on there too. Because I've done it at least twice on live, and that's insane. We have this because I like giving mail out, and I am like Violet Evergarden. I love to travel. I will tell somebody a story if they want me to. I surely will, but it'll be probably audio for you at this point. You know, you don't gotta do nothing crazy. We have the floating rock where the paint goes into the ink and it flows out here. And it probably just adds into the shadowiness. I think I like that. Yeah, the paint. All right, we'll figure out this. There's some space here. We're doing it as a comic book, so there will be more characters that I just add in. They'll probably all look like these little figures that you're seeing pop up here. But this is our current channel InVision board. Hey, gotta stay on brand. So every time I add something to it, I will go ahead and make a short so you guys are updated. But this is also what I want for our channel, and anything that you guys want, like throw it in the Discord, DM me, like let me know. I'll put up a post on here as well as probably IG. IG, most of y'all hit me up on IG, so IG is where I'll go. But sometimes I don't be getting IG until like late in the evening. That's why I set up Discord, so I can see it immediately. So just let me know. Can I stop talking now? Can I go to sleep? Did I do my job? Yes. Yes, I did. As long as you left learning one new thing. Doesn't matter how big, how small. You know I like vanilla ice cream over chocolate, but because the man's truck broke today, I took the swirl. So that sounds crazy. Just start the video over when it posts. You'll get the full story. Woo! We out, yeah! Thank you guys for coming through. Remember, you set the tone for your day. Okay? So tomorrow being Friday, it's a Good Friday. It's titled Good Friday. For religious purposes, yes. But take that, and feel that goodness and that warmth and them good vibes in the air. Make it a good day for you. Do what you gotta do, but also have fun with it and enjoy the process. If something don't feel right, trust your gut and don't question it. My gut always saves me from something stupid that it was definitely avoidable now. But that's something I had to learn too. So, learn what you're gonna learn. Try and learn at least one thing a day. Thank you guys for being here. And remember, there is an art to everything that you are and everything that you do. Go out and be the best you that you know how to be, baby. Because if you're not, what you stepping out for? Are you really stepping out? Nah. Step out and show up for yourself. All right? Be the best you. Whatever that looks like, whatever that feels like in that day. I hope you have a good one tomorrow. I hope your weekend is beautiful. Enjoy the rest of your spring break. I'll see y'all soon. Videos this weekend, guaranteed.